Rabbi Isai, welcome back to Yerushalmi Pesachim. We are up to Kaf Ches Amud Beis. Rabbi Lazar, now various halachas about following the custom. Is that where we are? Yep. Rabbi Lazar Shem Rabbi Avin. Kol davar she'eino yodea shu mutar. Look, you don't know it's permitted, but you made a mistake. You thought it was forbidden. But Issur. Nishal, you can ask the Chachamim, look, do you have to carry on? No, they can allow it for you. It was never forbidden. Some say they actually have to allow the minhag through a regret, a Pesach or Charota. Even though it's a minhag batos, maybe it's like a neder, maybe you do need a tos nedarim. That's what we want to say. Some say, no, you don't have to allow it because it's based on a mistake. Okay. Because of a shuyadeh by shumuta, you know it's permitted, would know by issa, and you treat it, you make a neder. Nishal, if you ask the chachamim, do you have to carry on? Then you can ask them. But we will not allow you. So if you knew it's permitted, but you were still machmir in a certain thing, then we'll keep you doing it. Now, about various stories connected with minhag in places. You're allowed to sit on Shabbos on benches, which are the goyim are selling. And you don't have to worry, people think you're involved in business dealings. The story of Gamliel, he sat on this bench. They said, they never used to have a minhag to sit on the benches. He didn't want to tell them mutar and you're allowed to do it. He just went away. The children of Gamliel, they went to wash in the bathhouse in Kabul. Oh, it's not Kabul, by the way. It's not that place. They said, we don't have two brothers washing together. He didn't want to say mutar, it's permitted, and then they went washing one after the other. Another story, they went to walk in the street while they're wearing kutkayais, which are sort of wide sandals of gold. In Beira, the people said, you don't wear these sandals, because you'll take them off your feet and you'll carry them. They didn't want to tell them you're allowed to do it, mutar. And they sent it with their servants back to their house. Now, you're not allowed to do Malach and Erev Pesach in the morning. If that's the minhag, then you have to keep that minhag. Not only with Issur Malach and Erev Pesach, which is an important minhag, even a minhag which is less important, also you should follow their minhagim. The fishermen of Tiberia took on the bean grinders of Ziporin, and the threshing, wheat threshers of Akka, not to do work on Kol Haloshon. Right? Although one could do these sort of jobs in Chol Hamoed, there was Sarach Hamoed, but they refrained from doing them. I understand the bean grinders and the wheat grinders is a good custom because they could grind these things from before the Chag. They don't have to do it on the Chag. And they can have wheat and beans without grinding it. But the minhag of Charame Tiberia, the fishermen, they're refraining, they're reducing the joy of the festival. And how can they do this? So the Gemara says, no, they still carried out caught fish, but they use different strings and things. Or like a string of the cat where the fish gets caught. And some sort of other type of net. So they still caught the fish, but they didn't take on to use the big nets, which they do on the weekday. I feel okay. The Gemara says, even so, they're causing less fish and they're causing less simcha. Rabbi Ibi, make alone, he would curse the fishermen. They are reducing the joy of the festival. Some say this hunting was done publicly, and that's why it was allowed to be done publicly. Bavli says they weren't allowed to do it b'fasted, they only had to do it privately. All right. Golem and Makom LaMakom, a community where they went in exile from one place with one custom to another place. Or Big Shilasabah, now they want to go back from their previous custom. Can they do so? They took on themselves never to go in the sea. And after many years, their children went elsewhere. But us and Rebbe, they asked Rebbe, they still, it was dangerous to sea. They took on never to go to the sea. They said, our fathers told us never to go in the sea. Do we have to keep that? Do we have to keep this thing? He says, your fathers used to do that. Do not change the minhag noiche nefesh. So don't change it. You should still keep their customs even after you've moved to another town. Why can a person not be shal on his neder to allow it? Why did he not allow them? Tamon. A person makes a neder, he can be shal on it. Nisha. Ramhacha here, it was the elders that had done the practice of a zeichem nadru, and not you. Therefore, you can't be shal on it. So wait a minute. Of course, they should be allowing it. They never forbade it on themselves. It wasn't for that reason he forbade them to go in the sea. From the following, because Rebbe Talmidid Rabbi Yehuda, it was Talmid Rabbi Yehuda. The Rebbe Yehuda he said, you shouldn't go for a big, unless there's a big need, because it's dangerous. Now it sounds like he forbade it because of minhag, because they thought it's not asim and adin. The Rebbe answered based on what they said. Rebbe himself held it was asim and adin because it was dangerous. The Bavli brings the story of Bnei Beisham. They never used to go on Fridays on the sea, even to nearby areas. And he passed them, they shouldn't change their minhag. Some say it's the same story as here. Others argue, okay. Reb Shimon ben Lakish, Shalom Yochanan, Eina Asum Mishum Baltis Gaitaru. Now, there are places where they do Malacha Erev Pesach in the morning and places where they don't. Now, surely you have like different groups doing different things. Amalei says, if you got where Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, and Va'alacha, and some people follow them, and some people follow them, it looks like there's two Torahs. That's like his guy to do. But here, by not doing work in the morning, it's only minhag. It's not issur to do like these minhagim. It doesn't look like two Torahs. Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, Beis Hillel. How can anyone follow Beis Shammai? So even without Lotus Gaider, you should all follow Beis Hillel. So why are you giving me an example? So he gives another example of Lotus Gaider. Amalei. Rameir and Rabbi Yossi arguing, and some people do Rameir, and some people follow Rabbi Yossi. But Rameir, Rabbi Yossi, and I like Rabbi Yossi. Should I love Rabbi Yossi? Amalei trade Tanaim under Rameir. No, two versions of Rameir. Trade Tanaim under Rabbi Yossi, or two Tanaim argue in the view of Rabbi Yossi. The one Tana holds it was Machlokes Rameir and Rabbi Yossi. Another Tana changed the opinions round. So you could paskin like each one of the opinions, because each Tana has got a Tana who holds that is the view of Rabbi Yossi. That is like him. So if some people will follow this day and some people like the other one, it's Lotus going to do. Remember, the Bavli talks about two Batei Din in one town. Yeah, two Beis Dins in one town is Lotus going to do. Whereas where nowadays we have people with different Messiahs and so on, and you have two Batei Din in one town. Okay, what?
What? Compare those times.
It was very different. It was very different. Now, Rish Lakish comes along. Amalei Harei. Now we're davening Musaf for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim of a Yovel year. But you mentioned Psukim, Malchus, Zichodis, and Shofars. But Yehuda, Nagu, Rabbi Kiva. They pass like Rabbi Kiva, the Malchus is in the fourth bracha, which is what we do. And then the Rabbi Shofar. But Galil, Nagu, Rabbi Yechim, and Nuri. They held that Malchus was in the third bracha. So you have different places, different customs. Amalei Shani, that's different. Shem Ava, Ba'asu, Yehuda, Kigali. If in Yehuda he did like Galil, or Galil, Yehuda, Yasi, a fulfilling duty. Arei Purim. So these read again on the 14th. They read on the 15th. Why is that night is going to? Misha said it's the Mishnah. The Tana said the Mishnah is read in various places. He had a pasuk to rely on. Mishpacha, Medina, Medina. You see, there were different times, different areas. We know from the pasuk that was the mitzvah from the beginning. So it's not Baltis going to do. Now, is that a person shouldn't change the minhag of the place where he's gone to the place he's come. You're going to a place where they do malacha to a place where they don't do. You should always follow the place where you have come to. I understand mokum sha'osin lemokum she'elosin. The place where they do malacha to a place where you don't do, so you shouldn't do the work. Mokum she'elosin lemokum sha'osin, going from where they don't do to the place where they do, why do you have to follow the minhag and do work? But you batel, just don't do work. So what? There are enough people around who don't do work. Why is the mokum in that place? And people think, he hasn't got work to do. He hasn't got work to do. It's not a problem. Rav Simon Rabbi Yochanan ben Matzmiah. He's talking about for someone. It would be unusual for him not to have work. Everyone knows he's got work to do, and everyone will see, he's not doing work. His minhag is different to theirs. Therefore, in order to stop arguments, he has to do the malacha like the minhag of his previous place. Halacha base, yeah. Now, you mustn't change the minhag of the place during Malacha and Erev Pesach. We're talking about changing minhagim about bir peres of Shavuos. Okay, the Torah says Shabbos will be to you lachem la'achla. Your animals. Like when the animals have the food in the field, then you can have it. When the animals do not have the field, then you have to remove it. Right? Now, someone's taking fruit from place to place. One of the places, the animals don't have the fruit. You're taking it from where there's no fruit to an area, to where there is fruit. The other way around. You do have to remove the fruit. Some say bittul is enough, and then you can be koiner it again. That's the idea of biur. Rabbi Yehuda said, if you bring from the place where there is to a place where there isn't, you don't have to remove it. You're not changing. You can tell everyone you want fruit, go there and get it. You can also go to that place. It's still there. You don't have to get rid of it. If there's no fruits in Tiveria, but there's still fruit in Siporin, the Ben Siporin can say, you brought from Siporin, they're still there. You don't believe me, say, go there, you go and get. You can eat shvius in the house, relying on fruit in the field, which is hefka. You cannot eat shvius relying on fruit which is guarded. Right? Field which is guarded, then the animals can't get at it. So that doesn't help. Rabbi Yossi, he said you can have it in a house, even relying on that which is guarded. Sometimes they go in. It's like a guarded field. Sometimes they can go in and eat from the fruit. Now, relying on a guarded field, you're not done biur. People think, these things are not really in the fields, normal fields. They're not in other places. I mean, why is Rabbi Yossi not worried about it? Amalai says, you can say to people who don't understand that this min is still there. Min hashamo, from a guarded field, I brought it. You may not, you don't believe me. Look, there's a field over there. Go and see. You can go and bring from there. So there's no chashad, there's no suspicion. Right? Okay. Halacha Gimel, right? The place where they sold the sheep and the goats to the Gentiles, one can sell. Where they would not sell because they're worried that they might be not to sell little animals because you might end up selling big animals. But you can't sell the big animals, whether because of chashad or malach on Shabbos, whatever the reason is. Okay, we'll see soon. One place where you don't sell. Don't change. You never sell the big animals because they're doing work. The person buys it, they'll do malach on Shabbos, and you'll be over and shvisas behem. So I think what we'll discuss. And you can't sell them even agadim masyachim, small calves, even though they can't do work. You might end up selling big animals. And you can't sell them shleim and shvuin, perfect animals or broken-legged ones. Rabbi Yehuda mati b'shvur, he allows a broken one because you're not going to use it. You're just going to shecht it. But b'seira mati b'sus, he allows you to sell a horse. It's just for riding on. Now we're talking about selling behemoth daka. It sounds like you can rear them in Eretz Yisrael. Mutter legada, you're allowed to rear them in Eretz Yisrael. We said you're not allowed to. On Rabbi Bar, you go in Mahir. We're talking about. It's a name in the Midbar there, where they do grow these things. Shisha Asa Mill, Al Shisha Asa Mill is a massive area, and the animals can pasture there without going into other people's fields. Now we said, the place where they forbid you to sell behemoth daka to the goyim, some places allowed it. So we thought the reason is because, the goyim were worried about revere. So then, and it comes out the guy selling to them, you're over lifnei yiver. But in some places where they sold it, is because in these places they weren't worried about relationships with these animals. They wanted to say, if you can sell, you can be alone with. Be alone with these goyim, right? Or you can leave these animals with the goyim because they're not nechshad on avera. You can't sell asel yachid. Then you should also don't leave your animal alone with the goyim. Even if you say you're allowed to sell, you still should not leave them alone with these animals. Because again, there's chashad. Ma ben livka male v'niyach. What's the difference in selling them and leaving them alone? What's the difference? So he says, Taman, with selling, but given to Michael, you're selling, give him to the guy. Now it's a guy's animal. So he's not going to do anything to it because he'll ruin the animal. But Amhacha, secluding with the animal, is your animal, but him to Israeli. And therefore he is suspect. Where they don't sell, you don't sell. Lama, why do they have this custom? Even small animals now. The seller, you're removing the obligation to do the shearing. Okay, fair enough, it was a goat. But, sorry, if it was a goat, there's no mitzvah giza, it only applies to the sheep. So why can't you sell a goat? So he says, by selling him, you remove the mitzvah b'chayr. If it has a b'chayr, there will not be a din b'chayr. It's fair enough if it was a male. And then what are you going to say? There's no b'chayr then. It's not going to. Well, why is there a problem? He says, you remove the matanas for the kohanim. If that's the case, but don't sell wheat. You're removing the chana obligation. Wine and oil. Again, you don't make a bracha before you eat it. Well, very good question. We have no answer. The truth is, the reason for the meaning not to sell behema daka is not because you're causing various mitzvahs to be uprooted. It's a gezerah because of behema gasa, because of a big animal. At the end of the day, that's the reason. Yeah? Or maybe a chashash or revia, I don't know, whatever. Okay. Whatever happens, you don't sell the big animals. What's the difference? Behema gasa, big animal, is chatos. If it plows, it does work on Shabbos, plowing. So you can't sell it because it might do malach on Shabbos, and the meicha will be over on Shrisas Behem time. When your animal is doing work, which does it on Shabbos, the owner will be still over. Behema daka ein ba chiv chatos. It's not going to do any work. Behena chayla behena goizes. Now surely you can milk it or shear the animal, and these things are done with behema daka. So there's a chiv chatos there. Tamam, there. The one who milks it, the one who shears it, who mischayev. But he's liable. But here, doing malacha behema gasa, he mischayeves. The malacha is with the animal. You do malacha on Shabbos, you're over because of your animal doing work. Now, the reason why you can't sell a behema gasa to a guy is doing malacha on Shabbos. But wait a minute, if given to Michael, you sell it to him, surely it's the animal of the guy. And therefore, why would you do malacha over Michael? Why is the seller over on this? So Ma'an says, I'm Rabbi Rabbi V'Shem Rabbanan Taman. You might sell it to a trial. You put it on a trial basis for a few days. If he's not happy, he'll give it back. And in the end, we'll return it. And the transaction will be voided after 3 days. Therefore, the animal was working with your animal. Your animal was working on Shabbos. If that's the case, you're selling it for trial and nisayon, then also it should be forbidden to sell it. And if he sells it shalom and nisayon, not for a trial, then mutter should be permitted. He says, well, one is forbidden because of the other. If you went against the custom in your town and you did sell a behema daka, do we put a fine on you? Just like we do put a fine not to sell behema gasa to a guy, in the minhag, we also put a fine going against the custom not to sell behema daka. Minhag goes about a minhag. Where do we see you put a fine on a minhag? He sold a camel to one nachri. Also of the Gomer of Shemlakish, the story came, but Kifla. He asked him to buy back the camel and for double the amount. Begin the Achsele Gamla, in order you should return the camel. Not only he sold the animal to a guy, he was like an agent as well between the buyer and the seller, which is not so bad. And even so, Rav Shimon Lakish fined him. The minig in that place was not to be an agent with selling a behema gasa to a guy. They would call him the one who is the agent for the goyim. So you see, they put knas even on the minhag, just like they put knas on this minhag not to be the agent. So he was an agent between goyim. Is that right? He was an agent between the seller and the buyer, and still they put a knas on him. According to the one who is the Masase for the Nachrim. Okay. Ma Rish Lakish now. To put Knas in the cellar. That which Rish Lakish said is from Yehuda. The Tani we've learned in a Brisa. Shem Rabbi Yehuda. And Makaba Behemim and a guy. If you take an animal from a guy to rear it and to divide up the children, V'yada B'chor. So therefore half of B'chor belongs to the guy, half belongs to Yisrael. Male Ima B'shaveh. You work out the value, and you treat half the value of the Jew, half the value to a guy, and you give half the value of the ox, of the Bechor, to a Kohen. But Nasna Loba Kabbalah, if a Jew gave the animal to a guy, but Kabbalah is Kablanas, that the guy took upon himself to look after the animal, and then it gave it had a Bechor, then it's belonging half to the Nochri, half to Yisrael. The Jew has to buy the Bechor from the guy even 10 times its value because it's a knas. You sold your animal to a guy. And also they put a knas, nice and kala damim. You give the whole value of the b'chor l'kohen, not just half. As long as even a small part of the animal belongs to a guy, then there is no obligation. That's how we paskin. Yeah, if a guy has a small percentage of an animal, there's no din of b'chor. Niftara min b'chor. Rish Lakish, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabba bin Rabbi Yehuda. So it was a similar story, and he was machmir more than Rabbi Yehuda. Ma'adam Rabbi Yehuda, you put a knas for the guy, b'kabbalah mishum hilchos b'chora, because one is giving, causing there's no vlad kedushas b'chora. Ma'adam Rish Lakish mishum hilchos behema gasa, selling a behema gasa. According to Rish Lakish, anyone who sells behema gasa gets a fine, even if there's no removal of kedusha of b'chora. Rabbi Yehuda matir b'shvura. Rabbi Yehuda allows you to sell the animal with the broken leg. The Tanakh forbade it. That's where the animal is not going to heal back. They said, even a broken one, if it's a female, and it can still have a relationship. So therefore, you're leaving your house to have more children from it. Meanwhile, people will see the animal in your house, and they'll think you can sell a behemoth to a guy. I'm talking about a male which is broken. We will not get better. So you let us, but you can still have a relationship, we can give birth. You can still sire a child, right? So we should forbid even selling a male. Rabbi Avon, it tells me you're not allowed to sell fetuses to a Nachri, even according to Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda agrees, if it can be healed, you mustn't sell it. So if there's an opportunity, the animal will do any malacha, you mustn't sell it. So therefore we forbid even selling like fetuses and so on. They're fitting for malacha when they grow up. And we're worried they will sell an animal which is fit for doing work. Taman Tanina, we've learnt in Bechoros with the din of Pidyon Petachama. One who buys the fetus of a donkey, where the fetus is going to be a bechor to his mother, and the Jew Moichalai sells the guy a fetus of his donkey. Afapi she'enu rashai, you shouldn't sell a behema gasa to a guy. The one who's involved with this, who buys a female mother donkey, shutfas with a guy, or one receives from a guy a female donkey in order to rear it to have the children. One who gives the guy his donkey by Kabbalah in this way, in order to divide up the vladim, the children. In all these situations, the child that's born from the donkey is potter min abachora, is potter from Petach Hamor, because again, the guy has got a share. There's no din b'chora. Now it says in the Mishnah, one who sells an uber, like a fetus of his donkey, to a guy, even though he's not allowed to, shouldn't do it. Rav Chagai boy kum Rabbi Yossi. Less hada amra. Do we not learn from here that you see the issur selling behema gasa includes even fetuses as well of behema gasa? Even Rabbi Yehuda wouldn't argue on this. Rav Avon said this to Amar. Rav Avon shel Rabbanan Taman. Chachamim in Babel. So it's a measure also lehamsi lehenzera. You cannot sell uvrin, as we have said. Ben Besera Mati Basus, he allows you to sell a horse because it's there for riding on. He said Basus Zachu, the male horse. It kills its master in war. So there's no worry that selling weapons to goyim. But a female, he says you shouldn't sell because you shouldn't sell weaponry to Nochrim. Yerushalmi, some say it's dangerous because the horse will run after a female horse. And it will run after a female horse of the enemy. It will bring you in danger. But Yerushalmi, some say it will just urinate and stop. And if it stops, when the owner is running from an enemy, it is endangering the owner. Man, nothing but what's the difference between them? Hasaris, a horse which is barren and sterile. Man, one says it runs after the female Zaina. This one's not doing any running. Man, the one who says it will just suddenly stop, but that applies to this reason as well. According to the Chachamim, now we said, Ben Beseira, the horse is there for riding. Why the Tanakhama argued? When the horse is old and can't ride, he will use it to grind in the mill, and that's malacha which you chayav on Shabbos. Rabbi Yisribun, Shem Rav Choda, Ben Beseira, Rav Nasan, Amru Davarach, they said the same thing. We went to Haisi Behema. If you bring out an animal or chaya or oifas or birds into the street, Bain chayim, whether they're alive, they mason or dead, chayav, you're chayav to bring a chatas. Rav Nasan, I'm mason if they're dead, chayav, you're chayav chatas. Chayim, if they're alive, you are apostle, because the chay carries itself. And that's the reason of Rabbi Beseira to allow you to sell a horse. He holds, even if the guy rides on a horse on Shabbos, you're not over on your animal working, because the horse is not considered carrying the person carries himself. Rabbanan Islai, the Rabbanan hold that riding is yesh mishum chiyuv chatas. They say carrying a living thing is chiyuv chatas. So the reason why they forbid selling a horse is because the guy will ride on it. But in the Gemara, the Chachamim give another reason to their words. Selling a horse because when it gets old, it will start being used for grinding. Why do they just say that the selling is forbidden because the riding itself is malach deraisa? So the Gemara answers, they answered him according to his rationale. You want to say, you said riding is not malacha. And the whole thing of forbidding the horse is mishum hilchos behema gas, because you mustn't sell an animal. Chashash, maybe the animal will do other works. We also hold we should forbid selling a horse for this reason, because the kashiyaskin is when he gets old, you'll have it grinding in the mill. Rabbi says, now another reason why you shouldn't sell a horse to the guy, it's forbidden for two reasons. Mishum klei because you're like selling weaponry, but mishum hilchos be'em agasa, and also the horse will work on Shabbos, and that's a problem. But Tani, we also learned chaya gasa, a big animal. For goyim is also even a wild animal, right? Right? You can't sell them a lion, right? Okay, you can't do it. Man tili, so who learned this price of Rebbe? Because you cannot sell a horse is considered weaponry, and that applies to wild animals as well. So Rebbe will hold you cannot sell chaya gasa, but according to the Divrei Chachamim, they didn't say it's considered weaponry. They said you'll do malacha when it's old. That's all very well. Like Rabbi Isna, Chanan Barba, Shem Rab, chaya gasa. V'goyim is mutzim menadin b'mehem agdaka, is permitted menadin by selling behem agdaka, because chaya gasa is like a behem agdaka. Basically, it's not going to do any work. Yeah, your lion is not going to do any work for you, so therefore it's okay. Where they eat roasted on Seder nights, you're allowed to eat it. Where they don't eat it, and then you don't. Of course, the Yemenites have minig to eat roasted meat and so on Seder night. Yep. Okay, well, there was a Tudas Yerushalmi, wasn't there? We'll come to. Let's see. Where they light a candle in the houses Yom Kippur night, Malikin, then you light the candle before Yom Kippur comes in. In the place where they don't light. Right? On the one hand, we don't want people to be in dark. There's someone to learn. It's because of the meal. Light is because of the meal. Einig Shabbos. So people shouldn't sit in dark. They shouldn't trip. Some say it's not a chiyuv hadlaka, but it's a day of tanis. Some say there's still a mitzvah lighting there. Kavod Yom Kippurim. People shouldn't be in the dark. Some places don't light to prevent any marital relationships, etc. Enough commitment between the reasons as far as the bracha. According to the first reason, even where they light, it's only a minhag ba'alma, so they don't make a bracha. It's only a minhag. They don't say v'tzivanu on that. Okay. Markoi. So where they light candle Yom Kippur, they light. They don't light. You can definitely light in the shuls. With Moisa failing in the dark pathways, al gabe chuilin, or for the sick people. Rabbi Babai Kumi Rabbi Imi. Is the meaning of a sa'egel? No, they don't eat meat. Even calf meat? Is that eating like Korban Pesach? I mean, no one brings a calf for Korban Pesach. So why should that be a problem? They only bring a sheep or a goat. So it shouldn't be a problem eating a calf. Amalei says, afilu b'saigel. Yes, the problem even with calf meat. Afilu b'sa'iv, even bird meat. Amalei says, afilu b'sa'iv. So remember they wanted to say afilu beitza, even a roasted egg. Afilu kulkas, which is like some sort of vegetable. But people might think it's roasted. They eat meat, roasted meat. Amalei min shchita, no, it's only things which are slaughtered. But things which are roasted, other roasted foods like eggs, it doesn't apply. Shabbos, and even they don't like candles, Yom Kippur Madik, and they do like. Rav Simon Shem Shem Belev, Rabbi Yosef ben Shov Shem Malach, Rav Shimon Lazar, Dash Rav Chib Abba, he came to the Tabariach Kadad, and he passed the night Rav Shimon ben Lazar. That what? That yes, if it's Yom Kippur fall on Shabbos, you definitely like candles. Rabbi Yossi Amalai said, Rav Shmuel ben Nachman, Shem Rav Yonison, Rav Chizkiv Amrudan, some Shem Yaakov Barach, Shem Shmuel ben Nachman, Malcolm Shnogan, the Hadlik, where they like Meshubach is better than Malcolm Shnogan Shnoi Lalik from the place where they don't like. Ah, Rabbi Yossi, I'll prove it to you. Yom Kippur we fell on Shabbos. Even where they don't like, it's madlik and they like for covered Shabbos, even though there's no meal. So you should like Neros even every Yom Kippur because it's covered Yom Kippur. Rabbi Bar Rav Simon Terrain Amr the rest of the Teinach I prove to you Shoyesh Hazeh. The normal person Sanua is humble, but a person won't have a relationship with a candle, with a fire burning. So it's fitting for every person to lie near Yom Kippur to prevent him doing a forbidden relationship in Yom Kippur. Now, if it's because of that, so when the one who says you should light or no light, right? Maybe it's for that same reason. They shouldn't be doing the Avera of Tashon Shemitah on Yom Kippur. The one who says you should light the candle because he'll see the candle, should be embarrassed. The ones who say don't light, because through that they won't see their wives and therefore they won't do relationships. Whatever the various other rooms, Beis HaKnesses, Beis HaMedrash, whether the Girsa here, some change the Girsa, okay. The wash houses. Now, wash houses here, this is the opinion who holds that Baalei Keri, people who have emissions are allowed to go in a mikveh on Yom Kippur. Therefore, they need a nair for these bathhouses. We don't pass it like that. What's needed this day? I feel about them where they don't like candles, you should light in these places. Because there's no chashash avera in such a case. Can you wash your pickled vegetables and your cooked vegetables from Mincha onwards? Now you're preparing Shabbos for a weekday. But did they allow it? They allow it on Yom Kippur, which is on a weekday, to start preparing for the meal, right? So the question is, what about when Yom Kippur falls on Shabbos? Rav says no, Rabbi Yaakov Baruch, nowadays we don't do it, right? It's brought in Shulchan Aruch about Knivas HaYerek, various things, but nowadays we don't do it. Rabbi Yaakov Baruch, why do they say Madich and you can wash the pickles, because people are desperately hungry? Is the difference if it's weekday or Shabbos? People are desperately hungry. What difference is it? The Mishnah argues on Rebbe Lezer. We learned the Mishnah. The 12 Lachem Apanim get divided to the Kohanim la Erev on Motzi Yom Kippur, not on Shabbos. Shabbos they can't eat it. It's a Tanis. They eat it Motzi Shabbos. And if you divide it on Shabbos, they'll be over Yisach Chana. It's a question of Rebbe Lezer. According to him, we should allow you to divide the Chalas on Shabbos, just like you can wash the pickles. Shani, that's different. Shani Day Chudava Kal. It's very easy to eat the lechem upon him because it's already baked. It's ready to eat. Shema Yishkach, you'll forget we eat on Yom Kippur. But the vegetables takes a while until they're ready. You'll remember, oh, it's Yom Kippur. You won't eat it. Hasi Rapinchas. Rapinchas asked Masnisa Pliga like Rebbe Lezer. The Brisa goes against Rebbe Lezer. It says in the Brisa, yeah, we can Shabbos b'Shabbos. We learned the Torah says with Shabbos sign. You don't do work, And Yom Kippur, which falls on a weekday chol, we learn from the Torah says Shabbat side, Shabbos don't do work. Now, in B'chol HaShabbos, Yom Kippur on a weekday you don't do work. Like Kashkem B'Shabbos, how much more so on Shabbos? Like Socha Delay, why do I need to tell you this? I'm finished from Shabbos and some things you can do. When Yom Kippur is B'chol on a weekday, and Shabbos on you don't do it B'Shabbos. Be'ezus, so what's that? So Adachas Koloshim B'Shabbos, that's washing the vegetables. You can do it on a weekday, you can't do it on Shabbos. Not like Relazar who allowed you to wash them. A very good question. The Gemara does not answer it. Rabbi Yaakov Bar Zavdi B'Shem Rebavahu Nirin Devarim. I think you're allowed to wash the vegetables, but vegetables usually eat them by washing them with cold water. And you want to eat it, you'll have them cold. If you need hot water before you wash it with hot water, then don't wash it in Yom Kippur. You'll have to wait for Motzi Asam. You can't heat up water. Until the water's hot, to mekanev, you can sort of, some say that is a reference to putting out leaves or washing the vegetables. The different gives what mekanev knimas yarak is. And it comes out, you're not delaying it so much. If you're going to tell me you can do this, where you can have the vegetables cold, he's not going to do anything. If he does it in the weekday, start putting out the leaves, everyone will know, oh, you want to eat the vegetables. As soon as the fast finishes while they're cold. And you'll appear to be greedy. Vegetables, some vegetables are better to eat cooked. And you're not going to take the leaves off on the day. You'll have to delay. You won't want to do it, and then you'll appear greedy and so on. You'll do everything later on at night. Now, what about this din of washing the vegetables in Yom Kippur? Can you wash them from Yom Kippur onwards? He says, sure, it's permitted. Sure, yeah, it's permitted. Mahu, what about Meima Lachalita? To send Yom Kippur from Mincha onwards to a guy, to Aveli Chalita, put it in hot water, yeah? Make me hot water ready for it, from Motzi Tanis. Are you allowed to do that? Issur Amir Lanachri, to tell the guy to get the water ready? Or maybe it's not. Aveli Shari is permitted. Now, can he tell him, Aveli Tufin, make me Tufin? Tufin, some say these are nice loaves. They're beautiful loaves. All right. Shari is permitted. Aveli Pasila, make me a whack ready to light, like maybe a little fire to light after Yom Kippur. Aveli light, no. Ma'abein Zeh, what's the difference there? Making the food is Echel Nefesh. But there, making the wick ain't Echel Nefesh. That is not Echel Nefesh. Halacha, hey. Where they do work on Tisha B'Av, you do the work. Even when they do work, Tamid Chachamim B'Teilin. Tamid Chachamim don't do work. He said, everyone should treat himself as a Tamid Chacham in this respect. He said his words like with a question. The Chachamim, should we worry? People should become Tamid Chachamim in this. But even the Chachamim themselves never intended to put this bit of malacha on Tisha B'Av. We shouldn't forbid even Tamid Chachamim to do work on Tisha B'Av where they don't have this custom. Right? The other Pirushim here. The Bavli learns a person should make himself like a Talmid Chacham. And it's not a question, it's a psak. It is fitting for people to be like the Talmid Chacham. Okay. Halacha Vav. We spoke about the minhag of doing work on Erev Pesach to Chatzos, and then other things connected to Erev Pesach. Now we're back to Erev Pesach to Chatzos. They would do work in the morning, and Galil they wouldn't even do any in the morning, no work. Yehuda would do till Chatzos, and Galil would not. It didn't depend on minhag. Halayla, the night of the 14th, Beishamai Osrin to do work, Beishamai don't allow, Beishilah Matir and Achatal Zacham until sunrise. Now, Beishamai and Beishilah argue if in Galil they forbade Malacha even in the night. Hayoim, but if during the day of the 14th, everyone holds also you can't do Malacha. Rabbi Lazar Shem Rav Oshia, Where did they get this from? That everyone holds, according to this opinion, everyone holds it's forbidden on the 14th. It says in the Torah on the Chodesh Harishon on the 14th day, Pesach Lashem. Sounds like all the 14th is called the Zman of the Korban Pesach, even though we only offer it in the afternoon. So Galil felt you can't do Malacha all on the 14th. Now we spoke about doing Malacha and Pesach, we thought it depended on Minhagim. Our Mishnah says it depends on Machlekes. According to Yehuda, it's allowed. According to the Galil, it's also. Rabbi Yaakov Barach of Shem Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Lav Shem Rabbi Laza, Shnei Tamidim Shonu Isa. These Mishnayos, one said it's Minig and one says it's Osur, the two Tanoim. The Tana that taught the Mishnah at the beginning of the parak holds that Malacha in the morning is Minag. The Tana who taught our Mishnah holds that there was Machlekes in Din. It comes out that there are three shittas with Malacha and Pesach in the morning. The man of God said Osur, you must not do Malacha. The other said Mutter, you're allowed to do it. And it's Minig Tavas, you're allowed to do it. The Tana of our Mishnah, he said it depends, Minig, it depends on the Minig in the place. Okay, to be continued, Rabbi Sai. Okay, the next share is on 1st of July, B'ezras Hashem. If you've got a few weeks spare, you can always go back on what we learnt already. We did Hurrius before we started Seder Ma'at. You've got a whole Masechus Hurrius you can pick up on. Or you've got all that I recorded in the last cycle, which is on the Kol Haloshon network. So you have the whole Shas Yerushalmi now on the Kol Haloshon network. You can pick up that while you're waiting for us to carry on with Perek Kvi Halacha Zayin, which we intend B'ezras Hashem to carry on when I come back on the 1st of July. Thank you.